Hi everyone. Pink Floyd's legendary, dramatic, and power-hungry music changed the path of rock history, and fans are probably familiar with it. We will now examine a subject that has been concealed for a long time. Nick Mason, the drummer for Pink Floyd, has finally opened up about his issues with Roger Waters. His disclosures present a completely different image of the man who is sometimes given credit for writing the band's best songs. Stay till the very end because you won't believe how shocking and awful the reality is. Let's start by going back to Pink Floyd's formative years. When the band was first formed in the mid-1960s, it was a true collaboration. David Gilmour's soulful guitar playing, Richard Wright's ambient keyboards, Syd Barrett's ingenuity, and Nick Mason's solid drumming were all examples of each member's unique approach. But before long, Roger Waters emerged as the group's focal point. He emerged as the main songwriter and inspiration for timeless songs like Dark Side of the Moon and The Wall. His poetry was profound, his ambition unbounded, and his ideals revolutionary. But according to Nick Mason, that ambition came at a cost. Mason describes Roger Waters as a man with two sides. On the one hand, he was a genius. His ability to blend music with deep, poignant topics was unmatched. In addition to having attractive melodies, Pink Floyd's songs examined life, loneliness, and the human condition. However, Waters' authoritarian and domineering personality made working with him more difficult. Mason revealed how Roger Waters and everyone else progressively developed from what started out as a band working together. When the band started working on The Wall in 1979, their relationship issues were already apparent. In addition to writing the songs, Roger dictated the entire plot, the music, and even the stage acts. Nick Mason said recording sessions felt more like disputes than constructive collaborations. Waters insisted on perfection and would dismiss any ideas that didn't align with his vision. Mason found this to be quite frustrating. He wished for Pink Floyd to remain a band, a joint venture, but Roger's desires prevailed. One of the most shocking was Mason's admission of how Waters' behavior affected their connection with David Gilmour. Without Gilmour, who was well known for his poetic guitar playing and smooth vocals, Pink Floyd's music would not have been the same. However, Waters often ignored his contributions. In one interview, Waters even went so far as to refer to Gilmour as nothing more than a good guitarist. Imagine being an essential part of one of the greatest bands in history while having your work and talent minimized in this way. Beyond music, the feud between Waters and Gilmour became deeply personal. Mason recalled that, during the recording of The Wall, Waters started sidelining Gilmour. Gilmour could have easily performed the portions he engaged session musicians to play. Gilmour was genuinely insulted by this. He thought Waters was trying to take over the band completely, so they stopped talking outside of business. Mason asserted that the tension was palpable even on stage during their Wall tour. Fans saw perfect performances, but behind the scenes the band was falling apart. But the relationship with Richard Wright was even worse than Gilmour's. Wright's keyboard prowess contributed to some of Pink Floyd's most recognizable sounds as a founding member. But during the Wall sessions, Waters insisted that Wright leave the band. The official justification? Waters claimed that Wright wasn't contributing enough innovative ideas. But Mason said that this was not entirely true. Waters and Wright had been at odds for years, and Wright believed that Waters' dominance was suffocating him. Waters took the historic choice to allow Wright to continue as a salaried musician for the tour, even though he was no longer considered a complete member of Pink Floyd. Mason said that this was one of the most embarrassing events for Wright. Seeing a founding member treated like a hired hand was heartbreaking. Wright later said that this was one of the most agonizing moments of his life. Therefore, why did Waters behave this way? Mason asserted that the crucial elements were control and perfectionism. Waters was adamant about sticking to his original plan for Pink Floyd. However, his need for control often drove his bandmates to the brink. During recording sessions, which often became into arguments, Mason described how Waters would not listen to anyone else's ideas. In addition to getting the music right, the objective was to assert dominance. In the mid-1980s, the tension reached its zenith. Roger Waters felt that Pink Floyd couldn't function without him, so he left the band. He felt that he was the vitality of the group. The other members, however, surprised him by continuing without him. Richard Wright, Nick Mason, and David Gilmour continued to perform and release albums under the name Pink Floyd. Angry was Waters' emotion. Since he believed the band was his creation, he didn't want Pink Floyd to use the name without his permission. A sour legal battle was the outcome. When Waters tried to stop the other members from using the Pink Floyd name, he lost the case. This just served to increase the animosity between him and the band. For years, Waters refused to accept their post-Waters success, calling it shallow and uninspired. His animosity wasn't just toward his former bandmates either, because fans got caught up in this altercation. Nick Mason's recent comments indicate that the pain from those years still lingers. He described how the camaraderie that once defined Pink Floyd was replaced by resentment and isolation. Mason said he wished things had gone differently, but praised Waters' talent and contributions to the band. He wishes they might have remained together as a group rather than letting ego and control push them apart. Mason also thought about how Waters' personal life mirrored his problems at work. Mason pointed out that those unsuccessful relationships were also influenced by Waters' need for control. Waters has 4 previous marriages. His music was driven by the same intensity that made him difficult to be around. What is the current state of affairs? Over the years, there have been brief reunions, but the tension still exists. Mason stated that the scars haven't entirely healed despite the fact that they had shared the stage a few times. He described it as a complicated relationship rooted in both admiration and discontent. In the end, Roger Waters' legacy was paradoxical. He is a genius who created some of the most significant songs in rock history, despite the horrible price he paid for his demands for control and perfectionism. For Nick Mason, speaking up meant more than just acknowledging the pain, it meant seeing the humanity in a rock star. Waters' genius is what made Pink Floyd what it is, but it also destroyed the band beyond repair. So what do you think? Did Waters' infatuation with perfection help or hurt the band's chances of success? Kindly leave your thoughts in the space provided for comments below. Remember that every great band has a past full of triumph and heartbreak, and thank you for watching. Stay tuned for other untold stories from the music business.